Tonight, as you settle beneath your blankets and let the world grow a little softer around the edges, I invite you to slow your breath, loosen your shoulders, and let the gentle glow of this moment carry you someplace magical. Perhaps you have a warm drink beside you, or the quiet flicker of a candle lighting your room. Maybe you're tucked into bed while snow falls outside your window. Wherever you are, this is your time, your pocket of peace in a busy world. And tonight, we're travelling back together, far back, to a Christmas Eve more than a century ago. Close your eyes if you'd like. Take one more deep, easy breath, and let your imagination drift with me to Victorian London. Christmas Eve in the winter of 1885. London, in those days, was a city of contrasts, crowded yet cosy, foggy yet full of warmth, bustling yet filled with little pockets of quiet beauty. The chimneys were always smoking, the shop windows gleamed with candlelight, and in December, everything smelled faintly of coal, pine, oranges, and frost. And on Christmas Eve, the entire city seemed to breathe differently, slower, softer, like it too was waiting for something magical. In this bedtime journey, we're going to wander through that old city together. We'll hear the bells of St. Paul's echo across the river. We'll feel the crunch of snow beneath Victorian boots. We'll peek into glowing parlours trimmed with holly and ivy. We'll walk past carolers singing beneath gaslamps and smell sweet shops filled with peppermint and warm pastries. And before the night is done, we'll end beside a quiet fireplace. Stockings hung, the city hushed under midnight snow. But first, I'd love for you to join in the tradition we share here at Holiday History. As we begin our journey, please take a moment to comment below and let me know where in the world you're listening from tonight. It's always so meaningful to see listeners from all over the globe come together to enjoy these stories. Now, as you breathe gently and settle deeper into your blankets, imagine for a moment the world around you fading into a warm blur. The walls grow softer, the air grows still, and then slowly another world begins to take shape. A world of cobblestone streets lined with horse-drawn carriages, of narrow lanes lit by flickering gas lamps, of frosted shop windows decorated with holly, ivy, and hand-painted signs, of families hurrying through the evening chill with parcels wrapped in brown paper and tied with red string. This is London on Christmas Eve, 1885, a city on the edge of a festive night. In this story, we won't follow just one character. Instead, we'll follow the city itself. We'll drift from market to parlour, from choir to cobblestone, from bustling shops to quiet firesides, carried gently from scene to scene, as though we're walking through a warm dream. There's no need to stay alert or hold on to every detail. Just let the imagery wash over you like snowfall. Let the sounds, the scents, and the soft glow of lanterns guide your imagination. This is your moment to unwind, to breathe, and to let the world of 1885 wrap you in its nostalgic, candlelit embrace. So, let's begin our journey. Let's step quietly into the winter morning of Christmas Eve in Victorian London, where the first light of day is just beginning to glow over the Thames, and the city is about to awaken to one of the most magical nights of the year. The story of our Christmas Eve begins not at night, but in the quiet blue hush of morning, when the city is still waking and the first pale light of winter starts to press gently against the horizon. It is early, very early, the kind of hour when only bakers, lamplighters, and the most determined travellers are outdoors. Imagine for a moment the River Thames on this cold December morning in 1885. The water moves slowly, thickened by winter's bite. Frost clings to the ropes on moored boats, and thin crystals of ice have begun to form along the edges where the river meets stone. A handful of barges glide quietly across the water, their oars dipping with slow, steady splashes. Men on the boats pull their scarves tight, their breaths rising in faint white clouds into the dim air. Above them, the sky is a soft wash of dawn colours, pale lavender and muted gold, barely visible through London's familiar winter fog. It hovers low and mysterious, wrapping the city in a dreamy veil. Through that fog, the bells of St. Paul's Cathedral begin their resonant morning peal, echoing across rooftops and bridges, announcing the arrival of Christmas Eve. The sound rolls through the quiet streets, down cobbled lanes, and over the frosted rooftops of houses still dark inside. In 1885, London is a city of nearly 4 million souls, bustling, crowded, and filled with sounds. But in these early hours, it feels almost peaceful. Calm, the perfect backdrop for the day to come. Now, picture yourself stepping into one of those narrow streets. The cobblestones glisten with a thin layer of frost that crunches softly under your boots. The air smells of coal smoke drifting from chimneys, mingling with a hint of something sweeter. Fresh bread baking in the early morning ovens of neighbourhood bakeries. A horse-drawn milk cart rattles past, the horse snorting softly, its breath puffing into the cold air like a tiny steam engine. The milkman calls a quiet greeting to a bundled woman sweeping the step of her little shop before the customers arrive. This is Christmas Eve in Victorian London, and though it is a festive day, it is not yet a holiday for all. Many shopkeepers will work until evening. Markets are open, bustling with last-minute shoppers, and the streets fill slowly with Londoners hurrying to finish their preparations before nightfall. As the pale sun climbs higher, more of the city stirs to life. Street vendors begin setting up their carts, rubbing their hands together for warmth. Children in wool coats and mufflers run small errands for their families, dashing across streets slick with patches of frozen slush left from yesterday's snowfall. A newsboy calls out the morning's headlines, his voice echoing across the street as he sells papers for a penny. Soon, the air is filled with a symphony of Victorian London sounds. The clip-clop of horses pulling carriages, the clanging of trolley bells, the chatter of shoppers, the distant whistle of a train heading out of the city. Shops open their doors, revealing warm candlelit interiors decorated with wreaths of holly and ivy, greens that Victorian families lovingly gathered in the days leading up to Christmas. To understand this day clearly, it helps to remember that by 1885, thanks to Charles Dickens and the influence of Queen Victoria and Prince Albert, Christmas in England had become a beloved and meaningful celebration. A century earlier, the holiday had been far quieter, sometimes barely observed. But now it was a season of joy, charity, and family gatherings. And Christmas Eve was the heart of it all. As the city gains momentum, you make your way toward one of the most iconic locations in London, Smithfield Market, one of the oldest markets in the city. alive and bustling even in the coldest months of the year. By now, the fog is lifting, replaced by a soft, milky sunlight. The market is already humming with activity. Picture-wide stalls overflowing with produce, meat, and seasonal delights. Plump geese and pheasants hang from hooks, their feathers gleaming. Butchers in rolled-up sleeves call out prices to the throngs of customers. Tables are piled high with winter vegetables, carrots, potatoes, onions, and cabbages, still dusted with traces of soil. Nearby, women in shawls inspect crates of oysters, a surprisingly popular Victorian Christmas treat. The smell here is unforgettable, a mingling of fresh herbs, roasting chestnuts from a street vendor, and the brisk, icy scent of the outdoors. A man selling oranges, an exotic luxury from Spain and the Mediterranean, holds up a small wooden crate filled with bright, fragrant fruit. In Victorian England, an orange in a child's stocking was a treasured gift, a symbol of warmth in the dark days of winter. Children tug at their mother's sleeves, pointing eagerly at jars of sweets displayed in a nearby confectioner's stall. Peppermint drops, sugar mice, and colourful barley sugar twists. The confectioner smiles warmly, offering a small sample to one child, who beams with delight before giving a shy, "Thank you, sir." Even the adults feel the thrill of the day. There is something magical about Christmas Eve in this era. A tenderness, a shared excitement that seems to knit the whole city together. Though London is massive, with neighbourhoods ranging from bustling and grand to impoverished and cramped, the spirit of the season touches everyone. Soon, church bells chime again, marking the late morning hour. Shoppers begin hurrying home, baskets full, eager to prepare their homes for the evening ahead. The markets slowly empty, leaving behind the quiet chatter of vendors packing up for the day. And as you make your way back through the lively streets, you feel the anticipation building, the sense that the city is shifting, preparing for the magic that will come with nightfall. The fog lifts further, revealing the full sweep of rooftops, chimneys, and the soft trail of smoke rising into the pale winter sky. Christmas Eve has begun, and Victorian London is awake. As the markets begin to quiet and the pale winter sun climbs a little higher, our journey carries us from the lively streets of London into the heart of a cosy, middle-class Victorian home. It sits along a quiet row of terraced houses, the kind built of red and brown brick, with black iron railings and a small stoop brushed free of snow early this morning. A thin ribbon of chimney smoke curls into the cold air, telling us that a fire is already crackling warmly inside. When we step through the front door, the world changes instantly. The scent of coal smoke and warming spices greets us first. Nutmeg, clove, cinnamon, and orange peel mingling gently in the air. The hallway is narrow, with polished wood floors and patterned wallpaper in deep green tones. Hats and scarves hang neatly on pegs, and a pair of children's boots sit drying near the wall after a quick trip outside to run errands. From the front hall, we move into the most cherished room in the house, the parlour. The parlour is the heart of Victorian domestic life, especially on Christmas Eve, and this one, belonging to a comfortable London family in 1885, feels like stepping into a warm painting. A small coal fire glows inside a black cast-iron grate, its flames reflecting off brass fireplace tools. Above it hangs a framed print, perhaps a winter scene or a depiction of Queen Victoria, whose influence has shaped so many of the traditions happening in this household tonight. In the corner, atop a polished wooden table, sits a potted Christmas tree. A small but elegant spruce, about 4 feet tall, following the fashion set by Prince Albert decades earlier. Victorian families rarely used large floor trees. Instead, they displayed compact table trees, adorned with charming handmade decorations. Let your eyes move slowly over each one. Paper chains carefully glued by the children. Delicate wax candles clipped to the branches, gilded walnuts, ribbons tied into bows, little cardboard angels dusted with glittering mica flakes. It is simple, yet beautiful, the kind of beauty born from handmade care. Near the window, sunlight, faint but golden, filters through lace curtains, casting soft patterns across the room. Heavy drapes in burgundy velvet frame the window, pulled open just enough to let in the winter light, and a glimpse of snow still sparkling on the street outside. Beside the fire, the family dog, a sleepy spaniel with a brown and white coat, rests in a cozy curled-up ball, tail thumping gently whenever someone walks past. The home is alive with quiet, cheerful activity today. Listen closely. From the kitchen comes the gentle clatter of bowls and wooden spoons, the soft hum of the mother and eldest daughter preparing the Christmas Eve treats. Let's drift toward them for a moment. The kitchen is warm, much warmer than the rest of the house, with steam rising from a pot on the stove and a row of jars on the counter filled with spices, dried fruits, and sugar. The mother, sleeves rolled up, is mixing dough for mince pies, folding raisins, apples, and candied citrus into the fragrant mixture. The eldest daughter, probably around 12, is carefully cutting circles of pastry with a tin cutter, her cheeks rosy from the heat. As they work, they chat softly about the holiday feast and who will be joining them tomorrow. Perhaps an uncle from down the street, or a grandmother visiting from the countryside. Victorian Christmas gatherings were often large and lively, filled with extended family sharing stories, games, and a generous table. Father steps in from the cold, stamping snow from his boots before entering the kitchen. His arms are full of holly and ivy, freshly purchased from a vendor on the corner. He shakes off the cold and smiles, handing the greenery to his wife. "Perfect for the mantel," she says warmly. And so, we drift back with her into the parlour, where she arranges the festive greens around the fireplace, tucking sprigs into corners, trailing ivy along the mantel shelf, and placing a bright red candle at each end. The room begins to smell of pine and winter greenery, mingling beautifully with the spices drifting in from the kitchen. 2 younger children, perhaps 7 and 9, sit cross-legged on the rug by the fire, polishing shiny red apples and plump oranges for the evening table. Their faces glow in the firelight as they chat excitedly about Christmas morning and the hopes tucked into their stockings. A tin of sweets sits open beside them, and every so often one child sneaks a sugar drop before giggling and getting back to work. On a small table near the piano stand, a stack of Christmas cards, both received and ready to be sent. By 1885, Christmas cards had become a beloved tradition across Britain. The ones here feature charming illustrations, robins perched on snowy branches, small Victorian children bundled in scarves, steaming puddings, and winter landscapes dusted with fresh snow. Some cards carry heartfelt handwritten messages from friends, while others are simply signed with initials, a common practice of the era, when modesty and formality shaped communication. Now the room grows even cozier as the mother returns with a fresh tray of pastries, offering warm currant buns and little tea biscuits flavoured with lemon zest. The family gathers around the small table as father pours steaming tea from a polished silver pot. The children sip carefully, holding their cups with both hands as if protecting precious treasure. The eldest daughter plays a soft tune on the piano, something simple, maybe The Holly and the Ivy. It's a peaceful moment, a portrait of Victorian family life at Christmas time. The house is warm, the food is fragrant, and the sense of togetherness is palpable. Everything outside may be cold and foggy, but inside this home, the world feels bright and safe. As the family enjoys their tea, preparations for the evening continue quietly around them. Tonight, they'll share a festive supper, attend a church service, and end the night by hanging stockings and sharing stories around the fire. For now, the day is still young. The sunlight is still soft, and the magic of Christmas Eve is only beginning. Soon, London's streets will fill with song, laughter, and lantern light. But before we head back outside, take one last warm look around this cozy parlour. The glow of the fire, the gentle scent of spices and pine, the handmade decorations, and the simple joy of a family spending Christmas Eve together. Our journey continues next, out into the growing bustle and cheer of Victorian London's holiday streets. By early afternoon, the once quiet streets of London have transformed into something vibrant and full of life. The fog has mostly lifted now, revealing rooftops lined with frost and windows gleaming with holly-trimmed decorations. A thin winter sun hangs low and pale, casting long, soft shadows across the cobblestones. It is still cold, bitingly so, but the chill seems almost to heighten the cheer in the air. People walk with brisk steps and bright spirits, their breath rising in little puffs of steam. As we step back outside from that warm Victorian parlour, the sounds of Christmas Eve greet us immediately. The distant peal of bells, the rhythmic steps of horses pulling carriages, the delighted chatter of children, bundled in wool coats and knitted scarves, skipping beside their parents. And beneath it all, the unmistakable hum of a city preparing for a night filled with celebration. A group of carolers stands beneath a nearby gas lamp. 5 young boys from the local choir, cheeks pink from the cold, scarves tucked tightly under their coats. Their small lantern rests at their feet, casting a gentle circle of light. They begin to sing, "God rest ye merry gentlemen." Their voices rise and fall with sweet earnestness, even if a few notes wobble with youthful enthusiasm. Passers-by pause to listen, pressing coins into a tin cup as thanks. The boys bow politely, their smiles shining brighter than the gas lamp above them. Carolers were a cherished fixture of Victorian Christmases. Many children sang to raise money for their church or for their families, while others simply enjoyed the tradition. Some groups carried small handbells, chiming a soft accompaniment to their voices. And tonight, all through London, these sweet harmonies drift through the frosty air, weaving through alleyways, climbing over rooftops, and warming the heart of the city. As we walk farther along the street, the air changes. It becomes sweeter, just slightly at first, until the unmistakable scent of peppermint, sugar, and warm pastries fills the air. We've arrived at a row of small Victorian sweet shops, each one glowing with candlelight that spills warmly across the pavement. Let's peer inside one. The glass jars behind the counter sparkle in the light, stacked high with barley sugar twists, lemon drops, peppermint sticks, and tiny violet pastilles. Children press their mittened hands against the glass entrance, eyes darting from jar to jar, as if each holds some magical treasure. A kindly shopkeeper in a tidy waistcoat laughs as a little girl, barely tall enough to reach the counter, points eagerly at a jar of sugar mice. "2 for a halfpenny," she whispers hopefully. "For you," the shopkeeper smiles. "Of course." The coins clink softly as he places the sweets into a small paper twist, carefully folding the top so the candies won't spill. Next door, a toy stall has drawn a small crowd. Tin soldiers march neatly in rows across the table, their little metal helmets catching the light. Wooden tops are stacked in piles, ready to be spun across a kitchen floor. Clockwork animals, small marvels of gears and springs, click and whir as the vendor demonstrates their movement. A young boy watches a tiny brass beetle crawl across the table, his eyes wide with awe. Victorian children didn't often receive many toys, so these small treasures, simple by modern standards, were enough to spark wonder. Around the corner, another tradition comes into view, one that became deeply embedded in Victorian life, thanks in part to Charles Dickens and others who championed the spirit of goodwill. It is Christmas charity. On Christmas Eve, groups of volunteers bundle themselves against the cold and set out to help the poor. Some carry baskets filled with bread, cheese, oranges, and small parcels of meat. Others collect donations, rattling coin tins with hopeful smiles. A small crowd has gathered around a local charity stall, where a group of women from a church society hand out hot soup to anyone who needs it. A mother with 2 little children steps forward shyly, and the volunteers greet her with warm, gentle voices. They wrap a thick shawl around her shoulders, press food into her hands, and offer her children warm mugs to hold. The kindness is quiet, sincere, and unassuming. Exactly the sort of charity Victorian society hoped would define the season. As we continue walking, the sun begins to slip away, edging lower into the winter sky. The light dims, the shadows deepen, and the day takes on the soft blue glow that comes only on snowy winter evenings. Workers rushing home light matches to ignite the gas lamps that line the streets. One by one, tiny flames flicker to life inside glass globes, stretching into warm, glowing dots far down the road. The transformation is enchanting. The shops seem to glow more brightly now, their windows rich with golden light. Holly wreaths hang on many doors, tied with deep crimson ribbons. Frost settles gently along windowsills, and the steady clip-clop of horses echoes a bit more crisply in the cooling air. A baker cracks open his oven door, pulling out trays of warm gingerbread men decorated with raisins. He places them in the window to cool, the scent drifting out into the street, attracting a line of eager customers. Further along, a florist arranges fresh greens, tying together bunches of holly, ivy, and mistletoe that Londoners will bring home tonight to decorate their parlours, hallways, and mantelpieces. A gentleman in a tall hat carries a basket covered in a thick cloth, perhaps a Christmas goose, or a roast wrapped carefully for supper later that evening. a pair of sisters walk arm in arm, mufflers pulled high against their faces, whispering and laughing softly at some private joke. A lamplighter, balanced on a small ladder, snuffs out the last faint remnants of daylight as he lights the final lamp on his route. Everything feels lively, yet peaceful, busy, yet comforting. Victorian London on Christmas Eve carries a special sort of glow. 1 part candlelight, 1 part snow, and 1 part the thrill of anticipation. The city is preparing, not just for supper, or for church, or for the arrival of Christmas morning, but for the joyful coming together that defines this holiday. Soon night will fall, families will gather, and the heart of London will begin to hum with warm fires, soft hymns, and the shared comfort of the season. But before that, our journey draws us next to one of the most magical places in the city during this time of year. Covent Garden, bright, bustling, lantern-lit, and filled with the scents and joys of Christmas Eve. As dusk deepens into early evening, London takes on a new kind of beauty. The daylight, already pale and fleeting in winter, has slipped away entirely. In its place, a soft indigo sky stretches over the city, touched here and there with drifting snowflakes that glimmer in the light of gas lamps. The cold feels sharper now, the wind a little crisper against your cheeks. But the warmth of Christmas Eve radiates from every doorway and window, pulling people into the streets with a sense of excitement. Tonight, we're making our way toward Covent Garden, one of the most festive and beloved gathering places in all of Victorian London. The closer we get, the louder the sounds become. Laughter, chatter, carols, and the lively calls of vendors finishing their last business of the day. The gas lamps glow in neat rows along the streets leading to the market, casting a golden shimmer over the cobblestones. As the market comes into view, it shines like a warm pocket of light against the snowy night. When we step inside the market square, the world blooms with colour, sound, and scents. Covent Garden is alive. Stalls are arranged beneath the great iron and glass roof, their awnings decorated with sprigs of holly, red ribbons, and evergreen garlands. Lanterns hang from beams and posts, casting a warm amber glow over everything below. The air smells wonderfully rich. Roasting chestnuts, fresh pine boughs, citrus, warm bread, and the faint sweetness of Christmas puddings cooling somewhere nearby. Let's take a slow walk through the scene. Directly ahead, a greengrocer's stall overflows with winter produce. Piles of apples gleam with polished skins, their reds deepened by the lantern light. Baskets of walnuts, hazelnuts, and chestnuts sit beside heaps of carrots and turnips. The grocer laughs heartily as he wraps a bundle of winter greens for a customer who is hurrying home to prepare her Christmas table. Just beside him is a vendor selling holiday greenery, armfuls of holly with bright scarlet berries, thick ropes of ivy, fragrant boughs of spruce, cedar, and pine. Victorian families adore decorating their homes with greenery, seeing it as a symbol of hope and life at the darkest time of the year. A young couple stands together, choosing the perfect pieces to hang above their parlour door. The vendor ties their selection neatly with twine before handing it over with a warm "Merry Christmas to you both." As we continue, the air takes on a fruity sweetness. Another stall is piled high with Christmas oranges, some wrapped carefully in tissue paper. In 1885, oranges were still considered something of a luxury. imported from warmer climates, available only during winter, and treasured in children's stockings. A little boy stands on tiptoe, peering over the edge of the stall, his eyes huge with delight. His mother buys a small brown paper parcel filled with the bright fruit, and the boy carries it proudly, holding it as though it were a treasure chest. Farther on, the festive heart of Covent Garden beats even stronger. A group of musicians has gathered just beside a row of flower stalls. A violinist, a concertina player, and a flutist perform a lively rendition of Here We Come, a Wassailing. Their notes rise and mingle with the murmur of the crowd. People gather around them, tapping their feet, humming along, and offering coins with grateful smiles. Children twirl and skip in small circles, their laughter blending perfectly with the music. And everywhere, absolutely everywhere, you see the iconic lantern glow that gives Covent Garden its fairy tale charm on Christmas Eve. Lanterns sway gently from hooks. Lanterns hang from posts. Lanterns sit on the corners of stalls, their light flickering against apples, oranges, puddings, and greenery. Even the snow seems to sparkle more brightly here. Toward the centre of the marketplace, a vendor selling holiday puddings lifts a freshly steamed Christmas pudding from a cloth-wrapped basin. Steam curls into the cold air, carrying the scent of spices, dried fruits, and rich molasses. Victorians cherished the ritual of preparing Christmas pudding, a tradition that involved boiling the mixture for hours and then storing it for weeks to allow the flavours to deepen. Tonight, these puddings will be the pride of many Christmas tables. Nearby, a baker arranges mince pies in neat rows, dusting each one with a fine layer of sugar that glitters like frost. His tin sign reads, "Best mince pies in London. Fresh today only." He smiles broadly when a family stops to buy a dozen, wrapping them in brown paper tied with red twine. All around us, Victorian decor trends shine in full display. With Queen Victoria's German heritage influencing British holiday customs, many decorations now mirror the traditions brought from across Europe. Glass baubles, still relatively new, hang from a stall selling German imports, their surfaces hand-painted with snowy scenes and delicate gold patterns. Wax candles shaped like angels, and stars sit boxed in thin paper. Bundles of cinnamon sticks wrapped with ribbon add a warm, rustic fragrance to the air. And, perhaps the most charming sight of all, small table-sized Christmas trees are for sale at one corner of the market, each one lovingly decorated with simple paper ornaments. Families carry them home through the snow, the trees swaying gently in the cold evening wind. Everywhere we look, Covent Garden is full of story, full of life, full of the warm anticipation that comes only on Christmas Eve. Vendors begin to pack up their carts and stalls as the evening deepens, but no one seems hurried. There is a sense of gentle camaraderie among them, a shared understanding that tonight is special and business can close early. As stalls shutter and lanterns dim, the musicians slowly pack away their instruments. Families begin drifting toward home. Carriages rattle across the cobblestones, the horses' hooves echoing against the market walls. A woman in a blue cloak tucks a package beneath her arm, pulling her scarf tight as she steps into the snowfall. A man extinguishes his lantern, lifts the last crate of oranges, and prepares for the walk home. And as Covent Garden's bustle softens into a warm, fading glow, we turn toward what awaits next. the gentle candlelit world of Christmas Eve worship. The bells in the distance are beginning to ring. It's time to join the rest of Victorian London as they make their way towards evening church services. A beloved tradition filled with song, warmth, and quiet reverence. As the last of the market stalls close and Covent Garden settles into a peaceful hush, London begins drifting toward one of the most cherished traditions of Victorian Christmas Eve, the evening church service. The bells echo across the city, softly at first, then with growing fullness. Their tones ripple through narrow streets and wide squares, calling families to gather in warmth, in light, and in song. The snow has started to fall again, light feathery flakes that swirl in the lantern glow before settling gently on hats, coats, and horse-drawn carriages. Each snowflake seems to shimmer as it drifts down, as though the entire sky is sprinkling quiet magic over the city. Tonight, we can choose between two equally lovely scenes. We might step inside the grand and awe-inspiring St. Paul's Cathedral, its great dome rising above the wintry sky like a guardian watching over London. Or we might slip into a small humble parish church nestled between houses on a narrow lane, its wooden door wrapped in holly, its stained glass glowing softly from within. Let's wander for a moment inside the cathedral, and then into a smaller parish chapel, so we can savour the beauty of both. Approaching St. Paul's, the scale of the building feels breathtaking. Its stone walls rise gracefully into the snowy evening, each window glowing with warm candlelight from inside. Crowds gather on the grand steps, scarves wrapped high, lanterns held low against the wind. Some families have travelled far across the city just for this service, drawn to the majesty of hearing Christmas hymns resonate under the great dome. When the heavy wooden doors open, a rush of warmth flows outward. Warmth scented faintly with beeswax from polished pews, evergreen boughs, and the soft smokiness of candles. Inside, the ceiling soars overhead, vaulting into unimaginable heights. The columns rise like tall, ancient trees. The sound is incredible. Every whisper, every footstep echoes with a gentle reverence. The pews fill slowly as people take their seats. Some hold hymn books carefully bound in dark leather. Children sit close beside their parents, eyes wide with wonder as they gaze at the towering stained glass windows, each one glowing with images of angels, shepherds, and the nativity scene. A hush falls. The organ begins its opening notes, deep, rich, full, and the entire cathedral seems to vibrate softly as music pours from the pipes in cascading waves. The choir's voices rise next, pure and clear. O come, all ye faithful. Their harmonies swirl upward into the dome, drifting like soft ribbons of sound. It is impossible not to feel moved. Even those who rarely attend church services come tonight, drawn by tradition, by beauty, by the quiet promise of peace. Now imagine slipping away from the cathedral's grandeur, down a quieter street dusted with fresh snow. Around the corner stands a small parish church, modest, cosy, and beloved by its neighbourhood. The entrance is framed by boughs of holly tied with red ribbon. A single lantern hangs above the door, its flame glowing warmly. Inside, the air is filled with the comforting aroma of wet wool drying near pews, pine garlands draped along the aisle, and candles flickering in clusters. This church feels intimate, home-like. The floorboards creak softly beneath boots. Families greet each other warmly, exchanging smiles and nods. A baby bundled in a thick blanket coos quietly. A small girl clutches a little sprig of ivy in her mittened hand, having picked it from home earlier. The vicar, an older man with kind eyes, stands at the front, greeting each person personally. He knows the names of everyone here. He's watched couples marry, watched children grow, watched families weather difficult winters and joyful springs. When the service begins, the choir is small, but earnest. Only a handful of singers, but they pour their hearts into each note. A violin accompanies them, filling the room with sweet, gentle music. They sing, "Once in Royal David City." And the congregation joins in quietly, their voices blending in warm harmony. Candles glow on every windowsill, reflecting off the stained glass and creating little pools of golden light across the wooden pews. By 1885, Christmas church services were enjoying a revival. Earlier in the century, religious observances had been simple and understated. But the Victorian era rekindled many traditions through Queen Victoria and Prince Albert, who encouraged Christmas trees, family gatherings, and seasonal services. The Oxford movement, which revived rich liturgy and music. Charles Dickens, who helped shape Christmas as a season of kindness and reflection. For many Victorians, the Christmas Eve service wasn't just worship. It was a moment to pause, breathe, and feel the quiet heart of the season. The sermon tonight is gentle. It speaks of hope, charity, family, and the stillness of winter. Parishioners listen with soft expressions, hands resting on laps or folded quietly. Some have tears in their eyes, not from sadness, but from the beauty of the moment. As the final hymn begins, the congregation stands. Silent night, holy night. The melody floats through both cathedral and chapel alike, uniting London in one shared voice. For a moment, the entire city feels connected, peaceful, wrapped in a blanket of candlelight and song. When the service ends, everyone slowly makes their way toward the doors. The cold night greets them again, but it feels softer now, less biting. The warmth from inside lingers in cheeks and fingertips. Outside, people linger beneath the lamplight, exchanging Christmas greetings. Merry Christmas to you, and to your family as well. Safe journey home. Stay warm tonight. There's more snow coming. Children tug at gloves, stomp their feet in the fresh snow, and laugh as their breaths billow into the air. Lanterns swing gently from gloved hands. Couples walk arm in arm. Families head toward their homes where fires are waiting to be stoked and suppers warmed. The bell tolls again. Slow, steady, peaceful. Its sound follows us as we leave the church behind and step into the snowy night. Our journey now carries us toward one of the most joyful moments of Christmas Eve in Victorian London. The Christmas supper waiting at home, when the church bells finally quiet and the last echoes fade into the snowy night. Families begin their journey home through London's lamplit streets. The snow has thickened ever so slightly, still gentle, still soft, but falling with a quiet determination that blankets rooftops, coats and hats in a delicate dusting of white. The walk home from church is one of the loveliest moments of the Victorian holiday. Let's join a typical middle-class family as they travel along the cobblestones, lantern in hand, breath visible in the frosty air. Gas lamps glow like tiny golden suns in the darkness, their light shimmering through the falling snow. The houses appear especially cosy now. Windows fogged with warmth, shapes of families visible inside as they gather around their hearths. Horses snort clouds into the cold as their carriages clatter past. Somewhere down the lane, carolers continue singing, their lanterns swaying gently as their voices drift through the air like a lullaby. The city has a hush to it, a sense that the world is ready for rest. And when our family reaches their door, the warmth that greets them is like stepping into a glowing embrace. Inside, the parlour fire has been tended carefully, now burning in a bright, cheerful blaze. The house smells heavenly, of roasting meat, warming spices, and the faint scent of pine from the greenery draped across the mantel. Coats are shaken free of snow and hung neatly by the door. Gloved hands are rubbed together, scarves unwrapped. Children bounce eagerly on their toes, excited for the feast waiting in the dining room. Victorian families place great importance on the Christmas Eve meal. While Christmas Day often held the grandest feast, the evening before was still full of ceremony and delight. It was a time to savour warmth, family, and the beginning of the season's magic. The dining room glows with flickering candlelight. A long linen cloth drapes the table, embroidered with small holly leaves. China plates, polished cutlery, and crystal glasses gleam in the warm light. Fresh greenery, holly, ivy, and little sprigs of rosemary decorates the centre, intertwined with red ribbon and tiny paper ornaments crafted by the children earlier in the week. The centrepiece, placed with care, is a small potted tree decorated with gilded nuts and sweet little ribbons. Though simple compared to some Victorian showpieces, it carries a charm entirely its own. It's a reminder of the growing trend of trees in British homes, a trend popularised by Queen Victoria and Prince Albert, who famously displayed their German-style tree in the 1840s. But the true star of the table is the feast itself. Tonight, for this comfortable family, the main dish is roast goose. It rests proudly at the centre of the table, its skin crisp and golden, juices shimmering beneath the surface. Goose was a classic Victorian choice, more common than turkey in many households. It was flavourful, warming, and, importantly, large enough to share generously with extended family. Beside it stands a steaming dish of roasted potatoes, fluffy inside, crisp outside, glazed carrots, buttery parsnips, and a bowl of chestnuts toasted to perfection. A tureen of savoury gravy waits nearby, rich and velvety. On the side sits a plate of fresh bread, sliced thickly, its crust still warm from the oven. And if you listen closely, you can almost hear the faint crackle of the fire in the other room, mingling with the soft clink of the family taking their seats. Victorian families cherished this quiet time together. The pace of life was slower, distractions fewer. The evening meal often stretched long into the night, filled with stories, gentle humour, and reflections on the year. The father carves the goose with careful precision, passing slices to each person around the table. The children lean forward on their elbows, gently corrected by their mother, excited for the year's most anticipated supper. And as they begin to eat, conversation blooms warmly. The eldest child recounts the excitement of seeing clockwork toys at the market. The mother shares a small memory from her own childhood Christmases. The father teases the younger children about the sugar mice he suspects are missing from the tin on the shelf. Grandmother, wrapped in a warm shawl, tells a story of Christmas long before gas lamps or bustling markets. A quieter countryside celebration marked by candlelight and simple meals. There is a joy here, not loud or exuberant, but gentle and deeply felt. This is the kind of happiness that lingers quietly in the heart. Now comes one of the most delightful Victorian inventions, Christmas crackers. By 1885, crackers were wildly popular. Small cardboard tubes wrapped in colourful paper, tied with ribbon at both ends, and filled with tiny trinkets, jokes, and paper crowns. Invented in the 1840s by Tom Smith, they quickly became a holiday staple. Father passes out the crackers, each decorated with festive patterns. Children squeal with anticipation. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. P.O.P. Crack! Snap! The room fills with cheerful bangs as each cracker bursts open. Paper crowns are placed slightly askew on heads. Small trinkets tumble into open hands. Perhaps a tiny whistle, a miniature puzzle, a thimble, or a little tin charm. Laughter ripples around the table as jokes are read aloud. What do you get if you cross snow with a vampire? Frostbite. The family groans playfully. Another reads a riddle shaped like a riddle book Victorian children might have loved. What has a head and a tail but no body? A coin! The youngest child shouts triumphantly. The warmth of the moment stretches through the room like a soft, comforting blanket. And now, the grand finale. The moment the children have been waiting for. Christmas pudding. It arrives steaming in its basin, swaddled in a cloth. Mother unwraps it carefully, revealing the dark, rich dome of fruit, spices, and sweet. The scent fills the room, warm and intoxicating. A mixture of molasses, raisins, citrus, and brandy. Victorian tradition says the pudding must be made weeks earlier. Stir up Sunday, to give the flavours time to deepen. And hidden inside might be tiny charms. A coin for good fortune, a thimble for thrift, or a ring for the promise of love. Father drizzles a little brandy over the top, and with a careful strike of a match, whoosh dash. A gentle blue flame dances across the surface. The children gasp in awe as the pudding glows like a magical lantern. Slices are served warm, topped with thick cream or custard. Each bite is dense, sweet, spiced, and deeply comforting. The taste of Victorian Christmas itself. With dinner finished and hearts full, the family lingers at the table for a while longer, talking, laughing, and sipping warm tea. But soon the glow of bedtime begins settling over the room. The fire burns low. Candles gutter softly. The children's eyelids grow heavy. It is nearly time for stockings. And for the magic of Christmas Eve night to begin, after the last crumbs of Christmas pudding have been savoured and the final cups of tea emptied, the house begins its slow, peaceful shift toward bedtime. The candles are still glowing softly, their flames gentle and steady, but there is a quieter energy now, a sense of winding down, of settling into the stillness that only Christmas Eve can bring. Outside, the snow continues to fall in delicate flakes. They drift past the windows like tiny glowing feathers in the lamplight, gathering along the sills in soft white ribbons. The world is hushed, dim, peaceful, as though London itself is preparing to sleep. Inside the parlour, the fire crackles softly, smaller now, but still warm enough to keep the room glowing in amber light. Shadows sway across the walls, dancing in rhythm with the flickering coals. The holly on the mantel casts gentle silhouettes, and the little Christmas tree on the table seems to shimmer in the half-light, its tiny ornaments reflecting glimmers of fire and candle. The children, yawning widely now, have been ushered toward their tasks for the night, and the most important of these is one of the most beloved Victorian traditions, hanging the stockings. The family gathers in front of the fireplace, each child holding a stocking carefully embroidered or knitted, lined with soft felt, or decorated with tiny stitched patterns. In many Victorian homes, stockings were simple wool socks, but in comfortable middle-class families, mothers often took great pride in crafting beautiful ones for their children. The mantel is decorated with pine and berries, and tonight it becomes the stage for a quiet, cherished ritual. The eldest child hangs hers first, hooking it carefully over the mantel. Then the middle child, with a grin and a shuffle, hangs his beside it. And finally, the youngest, lifting his stocking as high as his small arms will allow, places it just above the warmest part of the hearth. Each stocking sways gently in the glow of the fire, waiting for morning. Victorian children hoped for oranges, nuts, sweets, perhaps a small toy soldier or a tiny book. No matter how simple, the magic was in the anticipation, the mystery of what might appear while they slept. Mother and father exchange a soft smile, knowing their own quiet work will soon begin. Upstairs, the bedrooms are cool. London homes were often warm on the ground floor, but noticeably colder as you climbed the narrow staircases. The children scamper up the stairs, candle in hand, wrapped in nightgowns and woolen slippers. The nightly tasks unfold gently, hands and faces washed in small porcelain basins, hair brushed carefully, nightshirts buttoned, blankets warmed with brass bed warmers filled with hot coals, swept slowly across the sheets to chase away the winter chill. The soft scrape of the warmer, the faint hiss of cooling metal. These sounds mark the transition from lively evening to cozy nighttime. In each bedroom, the candlelight flickers against wallpaper, patterned with tiny flowers or geometric Victorian prints. Toys rest neatly on shelves. A doll sits propped in a chair. A wooden rocking horse waits patiently in the corner. The children climb into bed, the blankets impossibly soft and heavy. Mother tucks them in, smoothing the quilts. Father bends to kiss their foreheads. "Christmas Eve!" one child whispers excitedly, barely containing his smile. "Yes," Mother replies with a soft, knowing smile. "Sleep now. Tomorrow will come soon enough." The children squeeze their eyes shut, pretending to fall asleep quickly, but secretly listening to the sounds of the house, hoping, just for a moment, to hear the faintest trace of magic. As the house grows quieter, our view drifts outward, past the warm rooms and soft candlelight, back into the snowy night. It is almost midnight. London, so lively and bustling earlier, has softened into a serene winter dreamscape. Snow muffles every sound. The streets are lined with small drifts. Footprints from the busy day have blurred into gentle impressions. The glow of gas lamps reflects across the white ground, creating halos of gold in the darkness. Carriages are fewer now. Only a handful rattle past, perhaps someone returning home late from a long shift, or a family visiting relatives in another part of the city. Their wheels leave crisp tracks through the snow before disappearing into the quiet. From far across the city, faintly but unmistakably, a bell begins to ring. One chime, then another, then another. The sound is slow, deep and comforting, rolling across rooftops, slipping down alleys, echoing gently against the frosted windows. Midnight on Christmas Eve. Inside each home, the hearths glow softly. Stockings sway in the warmth. Sleeping children breathe peacefully beneath their quilts. Parents move quietly through dim rooms, finishing final preparations for the morning. London feels suspended in time, caught between waking and dreaming. And so, as we step back from this quiet home, from this quiet city, we enter a dreamlike moment, a feeling more than a scene, a memory gathered from 100 years ago, preserved in candlelight and snow. Imagine London spread out before you, its rooftops blanketed in white, its chimneys sending gentle plumes of smoke into the cold night. Imagine the dim glow of lamplight reflecting on the river. Imagine the soft hush that settles over everything, as though the entire city is holding its breath in anticipation of Christmas morning. This is the magic of Christmas Eve in 1885. A city wrapped in stillness. A night filled with the soft glow of tradition. A world where wonder feels close enough to touch. And in this moment, this peaceful, drifting, candlelit moment, you can allow your own breath to slow, your own shoulders to soften, your own heart to rest. Because the story has only one more chapter. A gentle return, a warm closing, a quiet goodnight. And now, as Christmas Eve in Victorian London slowly fades from view, the soft glow of its candlelit streets begins to dim. Not all at once, but gently, like embers settling in a quiet hearth. The snowy rooftops drift further away. The warm parlours, the lantern-lit markets, the carol-filled churches, all of it begins to soften at the edges, becoming part of a peaceful winter dream. We step back from the quiet bedroom where stockings sway by the fire. Back from the candlelit table where crackers popped and laughter rose. Back from the snowy streets where gaslamps shimmered through falling snowflakes. Until London, 1885, rests once more in its own place in history. But a part of it lingers with us, the warmth, the togetherness, the simple beauty of the evening. Christmas Eve in every era carries a kind of magic that is timeless. A magic born not from grand events but from small ones. A shared meal, a crackling fire, the hush of snow, the soft glow of lights in the dark. Take a moment now to breathe deeply, to let the quiet of this Victorian night settle gently over your own room, wherever you are. Feel the softness of your blankets, the stillness of the air, the peaceful rhythm of your breath. As the dreamlike streets of London slip further away, you find yourself back in your own cozy space, safe, warm, and ready for rest. The candlelight of our story gives way to your own soft darkness. The bells of St. Paul's fade into silence, and the gentle footsteps of families heading home dissolve like snowflakes melting on warm hands. Christmas Eve is a night of anticipation, but also of peace. A night to pause, to breathe, to feel held by the softness of winter and the closeness of tradition. So, wherever you are listening from tonight, I wish you warmth, rest, and the quiet magic of the season. Thank you for spending this journey with me. Thank you for walking the snowy streets of Victorian London, for listening to its carols, for sharing in its candlelit wonder. If you'd like to support more cozy holiday history bedtime stories like this one, you can join me over on Patreon. Your support means the world, and it helps keep these warm, nostalgic journeys coming. For now, rest well, sleep softly. And from holiday history, I wish you a peaceful, gentle, and magical Christmas Eve. Good night.